Are you ever hard on yourself because you feel like you've wasted time? It may get to the end of the day and you look back and feel like you've done a series of tasks, but you didn't really accomplish anything. Well, in this episode of the Dr. Kyra Show, I'm going to present a new way of thinking about that so that you can perhaps consider that maybe you are never wasting time. Well, hello. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Dr. Kyra, and this episode is brought to you by my book, The Strength of Sensitivity. That's the book I wrote to empower sensitive and empathic souls to truly understand their sensitivities in mind, body, and energy, which is the way you can empower yourself to live a life of emotional peace and balance. The Strength of Sensitivity is available in Kindle and print format at Amazon.com, or it can be ordered through any bookseller. So today, I want to tell you a little story about something that happened to me, which I found to be very profound. It really changed the way I thought about the stuff I'm doing during the day. I was, just like I mentioned in the teaser at the beginning of this episode, I was one of those people who really quite hard on myself. A lot of us sensitive people are, especially about what I'm accomplishing during the day. I may have had things that I wanted to get done, or I felt like I needed to get this done, but as these other things come up during the day, they distract, and then oops, that didn't get done, and I would just be really hard on myself that, I didn't accomplish what I needed to do, I'm wasting time. Well, this all started when I was listening to a podcast, someone else's podcast, and they were interviewing a very interesting author. His name is Greg McKeown, and he wrote a book called Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. And I will say that I do completely agree with the tenets of essentialism. As you can guess, what the tenets of essentialism are is to declutter the activities of your life and ask yourself, are you doing what's really essential each day and focusing purely on that? That means some important things for sensitive souls, such as giving yourself space in your day to determine, well, is this really essential to me or not? Is this beneficial to me or not? Also, very importantly, as I've written in some of my previous blogs, essentialism is about learning to say no to overcommitment. Saying no to overcommitment is vital for a lot of sensitive souls. So as I was listening to this interview with the author, it made so much sense to me. And I thought, yes, I should do that too in my life. Just reevaluate, go back in each day and consider, is this thing I'm doing or giving my attention to, is this really essential? But as it goes with me and my mind, body, spirit perspectives, pretty soon I found that there was a hole in this theory. And I'd like to explain to you what that hole is and how we can ease up in regard to thinking we're wasting time or trying to figure out what is it that really is essential. So something happened to me that was amazingly wonderful, such a gift, but it came out of something that I thought was truly a waste of time. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. To set up the story, what was happening was that I needed to move. The house that I was renting was being sold, so I needed to move. And I was going to be moving to a lovely loft in Lowertown, St. Paul. But the parking is tight here, folks. It's very tight. So generally, you have to find a place where you can park your car. You have to pay per month. And there's various choices around here, but a lot of them were not covered parking. And let me tell you guys, I've lived in Minnesota long enough that no, I'm not having my car on uncovered parking, just an open parking lot for the winter. No, I've been there, I've done that. I'm too old for that. I'm not doing that anymore. So I wanted to have covered parking. I noticed that there were parking spots right across the street from my building that are under a bridge. So it's covered. parking that would be great enough to keep the snow off and protect the car from hail and things like that. So I called the parking people, and they said, oh, well, those spots are in high demand, as you can imagine, and we don't have any available, and we don't keep a waiting list, so you'll just have to check back. So what I said to myself was, oh, I'm getting one of those spots. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I am getting one of those parking spots. It was about a month before I was going to be moving into the loft. The manager here is a very sweet lady, and she wanted to let me know whenever another loft was coming available, because I did tell her that I would have preferred a larger one, if possible. So when the lofts with a little bit more space came available, she would call me and let me know. And there was one that was coming available for a person who had to suddenly move. So this showing needed to be coordinated through the current resident. So I contacted the current resident and set up a time to view her loft. Then after that, I looked at what was the closest floor plan online, and I realized, oh, you know what, I'm not even going to want that loft. I could tell that it didn't have as many windows as the loft I had reserved. It didn't look like it has a storage room like the loft I had reserved, so it didn't look like I was going to like it as much. There wouldn't be any reason to go look at it. Well, I couldn't get back a hold of her again to cancel. Because of the essentialism tenets I was trying to live by at the time, I really went back and forth about this little bit, like, oh, this is going to be a waste of my time and her time for me to go look at this. I know I'm not going to want it, but it would be an even worse waste of time for her if I just didn't show up. So I decided, well, I just have to go. So I brought a friend with me, and we went to look at the loft. And sure enough, when I went in the loft, I mean, right away I could tell, oh, I wasn't going to like this one any better than the one I already had reserved. The room layout was a little funky, no storage room. But we were there, so went ahead and talked with her a bit. And I looked out the window to see her view, and she said, oh, that's where I park my car. You can probably see where this is going. It was under the bridge. So I said, oh, you park your car over there, under the bridge. Are you going to be keeping that parking spot? She said, well, no, of course not. I'm moving. I'm going to keep it through the end of, I think it was next month. And I said, oh, okay. Thank you very much for telling me that, and thank you for your time. So then what I did was go into immediate action, where I called the parking guys back again, and I had her name. So I said, this person is leaving. She's not going to be renting that parking spot past the date, that date, and I want that parking spot. And they said, okay. And I said, I will come down with my paperwork already, and you can reserve it for me. And so the guy said, okay. We don't keep a waiting list, but what I'll do is I'll put a note that we won't put it on the market as available. Just call back and remind me. And so anyway, guys, this long story short, it all worked out perfectly. I got my spot. So, oh man, spirit, energy, the universe, whatever you want to call it, coordinated this perfectly. My mind thought it was a waste of time, and it was the furthest thing from a waste of time there could have possibly been, for me anyway, on my end. Now, if I hadn't gone, would I have still gotten a parking spot under the bridge? Sure, eventually, and who knows, I mean, maybe even in the next few days I would have gotten an intuitive feeling to call them, and they would have said, oh, we just got notification that someone was moving. But the way it happened, was solid. It was solid. I knew I was going to get that spot. Now, did I waste her time? There's no way for me to know that at all, to tell the truth. There might have been something I said when I was there that was helpful for her. It might have, or my friend that was there with me, it might have given her some kind of awareness, about her move. Who knows? Or maybe it was a waste of time for her, but she helped me. And for us as sensitive souls, isn't that really what we're trying to do? Is do good in the world and just help and support other people. So this is what I want you to consider every conversation you have, every place you go, everyone you interface with, you're never wasting time. Because you simply, your intellectual conscious mind simply cannot know what you're saying to someone, how that's affecting them, how that's changing the course of their very life. You don't know. So that's the hole in the theory of essentialism. Does your conscious mind know what's essential? No, not always. But it's easy to patch the hole, because as long as you're typically living by your intuition, and you don't get too worked up when something doesn't seem to be going quite right, if you just go ahead and go along with the flow, essentialism will happen when that is your general aim. I think you've got it here, but just to reiterate, in my example, my conscious intellectual mind, absolutely 100% sure that was a big old fat waste of time. There was no reason to do it. Yet, because I've lived by my intuition so many years, there was another part of me that said, you know what? If we can't get a hold of her to cancel it, then maybe there's a reason. Who knows? So we'll just go. Take it easy on yourself about the whole wasting time thing. You never know what's really essential until it all, as my mother used to say, it all comes out in the wash. But I do encourage you to embrace the tenets of the concept of essentialism, saying no to overcommitment, which might be exhausting to you, and giving yourself some space in your day, enough space to breathe, to look at your schedule and things on your to-do list, and prioritize them in order of what seems most essential to you, and then cut yourself some slack. Recognize that you are indeed never wasting time. Thank you very much for listening to the Dr. Kyra Show. Be sure to visit my website at drkyra.com. It's drkyra.com, where there will be new things all the time. You never know what I'm up to. I'll be releasing Ease Biz School for empathic and sensitive entrepreneurs. There's always new blogs to empower you in mind, body, and spirit.